and welcome to Katie's Insight, where I give my insight on all kinds of things, and today I want to shake it up a little bit and do something that I've never done before. I want to talk about something that's not stimulus related. I want to talk about Princess Diana. So, as you guys know who have followed me, you know I've been really covering like politics and the stimulus and where things are going. However, I have felt really called to do a video about this for a while, so I think there are some things that I would like to say about that. And if you're new, hi. I do talk about politics and stimulus, but I'm going to be branching out into different topics like this. So I would like to say to all my people who've been here, if you like this kind of content, let me know. Give me a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments too, because if you do, I'll do more of this. This isn't so much a video as typically the stimulus videos are super highly researched and I have to do a lot of prepping and information. This is just me kind of more speaking from my heart on some things that I feel called to talk about. So just kind of let you know it's gonna be a little bit of a different vibe, but I'd like to see how it does and see if you guys like it, because I genuinely enjoy these kinds of videos. Also guys, I have another channel called Joy Sparkle BS. I did a very similar video to this, so if you want, you can go check that out. I'll have links in the description and up here for the video as well as the channel, and you can see that. But I was kind of thinking about it, and my thought was maybe I'll just do kind of commentary videos on current topics on the old channel, Joy Sparkle BS, and then on this channel I'll do, I'll do stimulus, but I think I'd like to merge them and kind of see how it goes. So, because again, I just love doing videos like this, and I'd like to share this with you because I feel like I get to share a little bit of my heart with y'all, and I love doing that. So I'm going to talk about one of my all-time favorite people in the world, or that did exist, and that is Princess Diana. To me, she is right up there with Nikola Tesla, who I absolutely love. And I feel like, I feel a very big kinship with her. I know a lot of people do, and I know I have a lot of boomers that watch me. Hi, my lovely boomers, hi, and greatest generationers. And I know that you guys were around even more so than I was during the time that Diana was alive and going through what she went through. So let me just kind of give you some information so you kind of know what I'm talking about. So if you saw the title of this video, I said, there's some hidden truths and the real meaning as to some different things as to what happened with Diana. And I feel like I have some information that I've seen and some insight on Princess Diana that you're probably not going to hear many other places. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about Princess Diana's mental health. And I think I have some things that could really help kind of explain how she operated. Now, I want to just make a few disclaimers. First of all, anything I say about mental health, I'm only giving my insight into what I see or perceive from Princess Diana. In no way, shape, or form am I a doctor or I have anything to do with medicine, whether or not it would be physical or mental or emotional. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor. I'm just giving my view on things. With that being said, I am not trying to diagnose anybody or tell anybody what they should or what they shouldn't do with their health. Everybody's health issues are very specific and tailored to your specific health needs. And I'm talking about both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So please understand, I am not sitting here trying to give anybody advice on what to do. I'm just going to give some insight into what I've seen from Princess Diana that I think could give us a better perspective of her. So if you guys don't know much about Princess Diana, let me first say that I was really little when she was around. So I just turned 13 when she passed. So I'll talk to you guys a little bit about that too. But she was always this figure that I saw in the news where there were certain celebrities that you just felt warm and loving when they came around. If you remember, we had kind of these superstar people that I feel like, and no disrespect to people now, I just feel like we don't really have them as much. These kind of otherworldly types of figures, right? And I feel like during that time, Princess Diana really embodied that. She embodied just this straight up loving energy. So when I was young, obviously, I don't know much about her. I know she's a princess from England, right? And that's a big deal. But she was just one of those people you feel good around. And that's one interesting thing about children is children are a really big indicator. They're really good at picking up on the intentions of people or who people are because they have more connections, in my opinion, to kind of feeling energy and emotion, because we kind of become dull to that as we get older. So I always felt very pulled to her, and she always felt very good to me, and I always felt kind of this kindred spirit, and that she was always trying to do good for people and help people, and I always wanted to emulate her. Not that I'm saying I've gotten that right, but that's a whole nother conversation we could get into. I feel like her mental health struggles I understand a little bit because on a very small microcosm compared to her, I've been through some similar things that I want to talk about. So what I want to talk about, let's get into this. So Princess Diana came from a broken home. So her mother had left when she was young. Lots and lots of issues within the family. She said she grew up very miserable and very lonely and was really looking for love. Now, let's talk about Prince Charles. Prince Charles, as we know, if you guys, and by the way, a lot of this I've been kind of observing from watching The Crown. So if you guys haven't seen it, I don't want to give any spoilers away. I don't know if you can give spoilers because it's kind of, it's a dramatic reenactment of some historical things, right? So, not to say that everything is accurate or completely accurate in there. It's just, but it does give a lot of historical perspective. So I was going to say, I don't think this is giving anything away. But if you haven't watched or you don't know the story, just a heads up, I'm going to give some information. So Prince Charles comes from the Windsor family. And what we know of the Windsor family is they're very emotionally cold. What they call in England, like they have this stiff upper lip, right? They don't show emotion. And in fact, one big thing in The Crown is that Charles is kind of this sensitive guy. And everybody's kind of trying to push him into being this guy with no feeling and push him in these directions he's not comfortable with because he does have feelings. So the Windsors themselves are incredibly dysfunctional people. I mean, this is a family that calls themselves the Firm. Like, these are not really functioning people as it is. So you have two very broken people that come together and are forced together in a very unnatural way. And one of them is a child. Now, what do I mean by that? So here are the first red flags, and I think it's very interesting because I feel like a lot of people in our society today, like the younger generations, they get so overwhelmed by some of the things they see from past behaviors of older people, and they have it's like they don't have a clue or a concept. And I'm not trying to bag on young people, okay? It's not their fault. They can't comprehend the world that we grew up in. You know what I mean? Because we've all worked. I feel like people like our generation, baby boomers, greatest generationers, we've all worked really hard to try to give the generations coming in much less hardship in many ways than we had, especially women. We've really been trying to champion for that. So I'm not trying to fault them, but I do find it interesting that their minds are so blown that how could all these things have happened to Diana and society was just okay with it? Well, it's because for so long, we've been brainwashed as a society on what's acceptable and not acceptable in the forms of toxic behavior. So this might sound shocking to people if you're young watching this, but I want you to understand when Charles and Diana first started getting together and dating, Diana was 16 years old and he was 31. And I know, it's gross, right? And even though that's right on the border of what I would call, being the P word, not allowed to say, and that's fine. This was more common back then. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm talking about the framework of where we were at as a society. As a society, older men dating much younger women, especially into their teens, it was more accepted and more common. In fact, it's only been over the last few years that rules have even tightened with some of those age gaps. So I just painting you a picture. So Diana had never had a boyfriend. 16 years old, very lonely. She meets Prince Charles and she says he leapt on her, trying to kiss her and do all these different things at 16 years old. She's a baby. She's a child. And this is how they started their relationship. And apparently they dated, they met and talked for about 2 years. So here's the dynamic. We have Prince Charles, a fully grown man at 31 years old, coming after a child. And then on top of that, he doesn't really want to be with Diana. Now he finds her fascinating, right? He's very drawn to her. She's very magnetic and charismatic, and she's beautiful, obviously. But he's also involved in a relationship with a much older woman who is already married. And that's who he really wants to be with. And she apparently wants to be with him. But the firm, the Windsors, don't want that to happen. So they push him to try to be with Diana. So if you can imagine, there are age chasms in this. And what's crazy is When she got engaged, she was 18, and everybody thought, this is amazing, this is wonderful, this is a fairy tale. She's a baby, and he's a fully grown man. That right there is an imbalance of power. Now, a lot of you may know this, so bear with me just on going over this information, but for some of you that don't, I want to explain, because I can hear some people say, yeah, but that's legal. Okay, that's legal, that's fine. I challenge some of the legalities on where the ages stand as it is, and I'll explain why. We now know from science and from learning how the brain works and how psychology works, that up until you are about 25 is when you become a fully functioning adult. Until then, you don't know. There are centers of the brain that can't distinguish cause and effect and emotional control. I don't know about you guys, but it felt like a lot of my teens and early 20s were very, very chaotic simply because I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. A lot of us go through that, right? Or even puberty. These are kind of things we go through because those parts of our brain have not yet developed, nor do we have the wisdom and the experience in life to understand. She's going into this not as an adult, as a child. And she ended up, I think it was like around 18 years old, they got married. Now understand, she went from being a very, she's very socially outgoing. She lived with her flatmates. All of a sudden now, she is living in the palace, completely isolated. They're engaged. Charles takes off for 6 weeks at a time, doesn't call. She's by herself. She has to go through all these lessons about how to become a princess and what she needs to do, and is very, very isolated. That is not good for anyone's mental health. On top of that, she's on this big world stage going through all of this. That right there alone, and she's not allowed to go do anything or go anywhere or have people there. All her support system, which really wasn't much coming from a broken home, is gone. So her mental state is going to suffer in that arena, period. Just the starting gate of it, okay? In fact, she actually talks about how the night before she moved into the palace, I think it was the driver or the bodyguard said, enjoy tonight. This is the last night of freedom you'll ever have. And she didn't understand it until later. And later she was like, oh my gosh, now I get what they're saying. So here's what happened. So they get married, but in between that, she realizes Charles is still kind of in a relationship with Camilla, and that's not going to change. We have a child. This is her first boyfriend. She has been completely stripped away from everyone and everything she knows, isolated, abandoned and left alone. And now the guy that's supposed to be there, he doesn't call, he doesn't really show up, but he's cheating on her. And she has the weight of the world of having to hold up this image of being a princess. And she's all of 18. I cannot imagine going through any of that at that age and doing it as gracefully with so much poise. I couldn't do it. I'm sure, sound off in the comments. Do you think you could have done that? I don't think any of us could have done that. So I want you to understand right there where her mental state would be. Now, here's also what I want to talk about. As time went on and very quickly on, she had a couple children. So right in her teens to early 20s, she has 2 children. She suffers a lot of postpartum. And on top of that, Charles is not at all supportive, at all. Now, during that, I have to be very careful how I word this. She ends up experiencing having a eating issue where food doesn't stay down forcefully, please infer. And that becomes a very dominant theme for her. And that becomes something that becomes a very big issue in her life. She said at that point, things were so dark. She kind of blacked out and doesn't remember the birth of Harry, her second child, and many years in that point. She doesn't really even remember them. Now, it's interesting because I think Diana was very intuitive, even if she didn't realize it. She said that from an early age, she knew she was going to be married to somebody very, very well known in the public eye. She knew she was going to get married at the big church that they got married at, that I forget what it is, but that people typically don't get married at. And she also knew when Charles proposed to her, she had this inner voice that said, you won't be queen. She kind of knew these things were coming, and what a brave woman. She took it all on. She was like, okay, let's try this. Diana, on top of all that, the family started to resent her. Charles resented her because she got in the way of being with Camilla. And they came from such different emotional backgrounds, they could not communicate, they could not give one another emotionally what they needed. Charles needed a lot of praise and somebody to really be there for him. And Diana needed a lot of love and somebody to be open and really just shower her with attention. But Charles, even though that's what he needed on some level, he was very, very cold, and he was very mad that he couldn't be with Camilla. And that consistently got taken out on Diana. In fact, the whole family began taking things out on Diana. Diana was the most popular person because she was actually warm and caring. The other people in that family kind of come across as pompous and entitled and conceited and stuck up. And she's just so open and loving and just, acts like a regular person. And people just loved her to the point where, so understand, all of that's going on. So her husband's cheating on her, postpartum, alone, all of this stress, having nobody around, turns into the eating issues. She already comes from a broken place, doesn't get any attention from Charles, is very, very isolated. Then the family all starts to resent her because she's getting more attention and is more popular than any of them. So now when she actually goes and does the royal work she's supposed to, she can't do anything right. Because if she does well, everybody's mad at her because she's too popular and she's done too well and she's taking attention away from them. If she doesn't do well, how dare you, this is what you were supposed to do. Diana in that family was not looked at as a person. She was looked at as an object, as just something to use for their gain. And in that case, how would somebody ever mentally be healthy? She suffered from severe depression, from anxiety, from jealousy, from all of these different issues. And as their marriage started to dissolve from all of these things happening, the whole family, including Prince Charles, blamed all of the issues on the fact that Diana has eating issues and that's what's wrong. They all tried to gaslight her. They told her she is crazy. She is mentally ill. They had their own psychologists come and say, for you to function, you need to take high-powered things like lithium. Then they just tried to shove medication down her throat. That sounds similar to today, especially if you're a woman. We have a system that just tries to throw pills at you, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, and they don't really try to get to the root of exactly what's going on. And it was the same for them. Can you imagine? They're just like, get on lithium and just perform monkey dance, do what we tell you to. So she said she stopped all of that. She tried with Charles. She really tried. Now, she wasn't perfect. She ended up having affairs too because she was so isolated. But she did try. She really tried with him, and Charles was in love with somebody else. And to Charles's credit, I do feel for him because he was in a situation where he was being forced to do this to Diana, but I also get mad at him because he just took everything out on Diana and he, really did a lot of toxicity to her. I would call it the A word. Please infer. I don't really want to say what the A word is, because YouTube will be upset with. I hate this. I hate having to dance around this. You guys aren't children, but YouTube is YouTube and you have to respect the boundaries that YouTube sets. So Diana decided she was going to leave Charles and that she needed to for her own mental good. And she got to the right psychologist, and the right psychologist told her, there's nothing wrong with you. You are in such a toxic environment. There is no way you are going to be able to function as a normal person. You need to be around people that care about you, that respect you, that love you, that honor you for the person you are, and don't constantly treat you as an object and put you down. And the psychologist, the right psychologist, was the one that said, this is why you have your eating issues. Your eating issues aren't the cause. They are a symptom of the cause. And the cause is the toxicity these people have created for you. And I cannot imagine how much strength it took her and how much courage to leave. Now, I want you guys to understand, it might not sound that big a deal that they got divorced, but please understand, in the 80s and 90s, divorce was still very taboo. It was a big faux pas. I know because in the late 80s, my parents got a divorce and it was a big deal. And there was discrimination against that between my parents and even us as kids. Like we had, I remember my sister had girlfriends and their parents said, you can't stay the night and you can't hang out with them now because their parents are divorced. Like it came more of a common thing, but it wasn't common. And for the royals, that is just not going to happen. They'd rather you stay married, be miserable and have affairs on the side, but just be on the down low so the press doesn't know. That's how non-functioning, this is how dysfunctional these people are, and that's just expected of you. So she really suffered, and she said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and leave. And so they separated, and it became very, very public. And she started to really work with therapy, and that's when she was able to overcome the eating issues, because it got very, very severe for her. And she had explained it was basically a form of comfort, it's a form of power, it's a form of control. Because remember, that's probably in her mind the only control she had, was being able to control food and consumption and what her body does and doesn't do. And I very much understand that. So this is what I want to talk about with Diana. So many people around her, everybody around her was saying, you are crazy. Something is wrong with you. You are the reason everything is bad. And here's the kicker. None of that was true. That was dysfunctional people who decided they were entitled to use her in whatever capacity that they thought that they could. And if she didn't want to, or she had any emotions about that, she was not allowed. They did not allow her to be a human. And that is a very big form of the A word. It's when people consistently don't treat you well in a way that's very, very damaging. Please infer. And I find it fascinating because I think, how many situations do we have in life or people where we are told we are crazy, something's wrong with us, it's all us, because we end up having emotions to the fact that people or situations are mistreating us, or consistently disrespecting us, or dehumanizing us, or putting us down. That happens all the time. It especially happens with women, with minorities, with veterans, with what society considers the lower classes. I'm not saying those are lower classes. I mean in how we are treated. Please understand. I'm not trying to say that's what I think. I just mean in terms of the way that we are looked at as equals. So I'm going to open up a little bit to you guys. I know a lot of you who watch this know my story, or you know some of it. You're about to get some information. I feel like as women in this society, and I think this is very important that we talk about, and this is coming up more and more, when we have different issues or when things come up, we are always labeled as, you're crazy, there's something wrong with you. And in fact, there's a growing, alarming trend of women who are having physical issues that end up turning into severe issues, or sometimes they start as severe, and we're just told, oh, you're just anxious. You guys know I went through this with doctors. For 36 years of my life, I was misdiagnosed, and people didn't listen to me when I said something's wrong with my heart. Ah, you're just anxious. Well, yeah, I'm not going to feel at peace when my heart is not working and something's not right. Yes, of course that's going to cause anxiety, right? Or if we tell people, like for instance, Selma Blair. One day I'll talk about her, but Selma Blair has MS. For years she tried to tell her doctors, they didn't listen to, oh, you're just a mom, you're just tired. And it wasn't until she had an episode in front of them that they actually took her seriously. Many times you kind of almost have to, not literally, but kind of shake your doctors and really say, something's wrong. You need to help me. We still have a society where our medical system, the family practitioners are just trained to kind of medicate you and send you on your way. And as well, we have a society when it comes to psychiatry, when it comes to counseling, many times, and counselors are different because they don't prescribe medication, but like with psychiatry, many times they're just going to medicate you. Like, look at this. The fact that they had psychologists just trying to put her on lithium they wanted to make her less of a human being. Yet she's crazy. She can't do any right. And I grew up and I've been through some similar situations. I don't want to go too much into it, but I was sick my whole life. People didn't believe me. Now, I was diagnosed with extreme asthma and allergies, but then it stopped. And nobody believed me about the physical issues. And much of my life, there was this narrative. It was very strange. There was a narrative that I am mentally ill and we need to hospitalize me. But nobody ever got me therapy. Nobody ever took me to counseling. And furthermore, later in life, and this was just a few years ago, we're talking like maybe 3-4 years ago, when my heart issues were at their worst, I'm blacking out driving. I'm fighting seizures. Things are really bad. I can't drive anymore, but I have to. So I'm not a safe person to be around when I'm driving, but I have to do this. And I got hospitalized for chronic fevers, for a regular EKG. And I had family members who said, let's take it upon ourselves. This is the time we need to finally put this person in a mental institution. I've never been diagnosed with anything other than doctors saying you're anxious because if you're anxious. But then I had to completely run away and cut those people off. I ended up who you guys know is my boyfriend right now. Even though we weren't together, he said, I'm coming to get you, because I was in Kansas City, lived in Oklahoma City, and he came to get me. And living with him, he helped give me the stability and the support to figure things out. Turns out I have a major heart condition called POTS, and I have something called dysautonomia. And then the asthma and allergies, as many of you know, was a histamine disorder. All of these things are going to cause all of these different issues with my heart, with the way my body functions. And I didn't fully understand Princess Diana's story until I watched The Crown, and I saw the similarities, not just between what I've been through and her, but what countless women and countless people who grew up in bad situations go through. And I was absolutely shocked and floored, and my heart went out to her. And then as well, guys, I told you I've had a former YouTube channel, and on that channel, I was trying to, in my mind, I was documenting what I was going through with my health, because I thought, well, maybe if I can figure it out, it can help people see what's going on, and then they can, maybe this will help them figure out their situation, or maybe they have a similar situation. And it turned into, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was on the side of the internet that's very big on calling criticism. They bully you and call it criticism. And people decided to go on this campaign that there's nothing wrong with me, I'm lying, I'm not sick. And again, I went through it on a microcosm, but that was so emotionally painful to have society do that, as well as having former very toxic family members doing that. And by the way, on this channel, that was before I knew what was going on. I was trying to figure it out. And I came out of it, and I'm, we're working on my health. I'm getting there. But I looked at this and I thought, how interesting is it that she went through that on such a major world scale, and how much of a bad A is she? She did some really awesome stuff. So for instance, like, she actually confronted Camilla. That's the one that Charles was cheating on her with. And she confronted her about it. And even though, Charles yelled at her, and how could you do that? Everybody comes down on her. Like she did, she took the steps she had to take. Remember, she's a child. She's a child going through this. She took the steps that she had to take to grow up, to become a woman, not having any good direction around her, and do what was best for her and her children, got out of there and healed herself. Despite everything she went through, she was able to grow up from this and become this just remarkable person who went and did a lot of amazing things for people. Now, the sad thing is we all know how it ended. In fact, interestingly enough, I was on my first trip to Europe when I was 13 years old, and I was in France when she was in France, and I heard that she died. And I remember at the time, I didn't know much about, I knew who she was, didn't really know much about her, but there was this feeling where my heart just felt like it sunk to my feet, if that meant, like my stomach dropped. And I felt horrible. And I remember being like, why am I having such a reaction? I don't really know much about her. But I think it was because people had such a reaction, even people like me, like kids who didn't really understand it, because she was such a beautiful, loving presence. And unfortunately, that family is incredibly toxic. We've learned a lot about that family. I kind of tried in my head to be fair when it came to Charles, and kind of, try to see things from his perspective. And even though I do, he still felt entitled to use her and to use Diana in whatever capacity that he wanted, because he was too cowardly to stand up to his family. And on top of that, now we have things coming out about the royals, like that they are not very good people. And what I mean by that is, there's a guy named Jeff, and he had an airplane. Maybe there was an issue with an island, and maybe Prince Andrew was a very big part of that. And then I found out as well, it looks like the records show that Prince Charles may have as well. So it looks like there's already a predilection for that family to be okay with doing things that aren't nice to children. Please infer. That's what she got wrapped up into. I don't think any of us can imagine what she's gone through, what she saw, and she was able to get out of that. And I just think that's amazing and remarkable to be able to look back at all of it in a better totality of knowing things we didn't know, and see what she actually went through and how she overcame it. Now, here's what I want to talk about with mental health that I think is very interesting. Like I said, it seems like nowadays what is accepted is if there's a mental health issue, let's throw medicine at it. And by the way, I am not talking about anybody's specific situation other than Diana and maybe myself. I am not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Your mental health needs are very specific to whatever it is going on with you. Same thing with your health. And nobody but your trusted doctors and professionals should tell you what to do. So please don't take this as any advice from me. I'm not qualified to give it. But I feel like it's become very common just to throw medication at us when we have depression or anxiety or different issues. When it's coming out now, there's more and more science that is being stated, I feel like that's been suppressed, that just because you're suffering from depression or anxiety doesn't mean you actually have full-blown depression and anxiety in the sense where you need medication. Now, let me kind of explain what this means. There is, chemically imbalanced types of depression, and there's also situational. Now, situational, and I know I've been through this, I think a lot of people with chronic illness have been through this, or people on disability, people who have limitations. That means that you are depressed because there are certain factors in your life that are happening that are very understandable. Like you don't have what you need to meet your needs for your everyday life. You are homeless. Different things like that could be fixed if we were able to meet your needs or fix certain issues. Now, there are other type of depression though, when it comes to chemical imbalance. That's the type of depression where you have everything you need. Everything is fine. You've tried all the therapies on going into your childhood and looking at stuff. You've tried all of that. And everything for the most part is okay. But no matter what, you're still depressed. And then in that case, there may be chemical issues and medicine could be good for you. But I think it's important as a society that we stop consistently trying to over-medicate and we try to look at a person's issues or a person as a whole. For instance, I feel like when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to medicine, many times pills are thrown at us. I started gaining a lot of weight. Nobody knew why. And the first thing that happened was I was thrown pills. I was thrown thyroid medicine that I didn't really need. And now it's going to be a process trying to get off of it because you don't want to mess with your thyroid, and it didn't help. Now, granted, in my situation, that is a normal standard thing for doctors to do if you're having weight issues. But my whole point is that, a lot of times medication will be thrown at something, but they don't look at how to fix the root cause. And unfortunately, many doctors aren't taught to do that unless maybe you specialize in something. They're taught to just throw medicine at you and they get kickbacks for doing so. Same thing in psychiatry. They actually get money for pushing more drugs on people. So they're incentivized just to drug you up, shut you up, but it doesn't actually many times fix the problem depending on, again, what your specific issues are. And I think it's very important to look at a situation and say, is it that there's something wrong with you? Or is it that you are in an environment or a situation or a relationship or whatever that is so toxic, there is no way for you to actually to be able to function in a way that's going to be healthy. And I feel like that conversation is muchly left out of society, and that's a bigger conversation I would love to have with you guys more on this channel. Okay guys, if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, please help me out and give me a very big thumbs up to show me that. Like this video. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit notifications so you can be notified what's coming in the pipeline when it comes to stimulus or even videos like this if you would like to see more videos like this. Sound off in the comments, guys. Let me know if you liked this video and if you would like to see more commentary like this. And guys, please share this content with people you think that are like-minded, maybe people this could help, people who are going through physical illness, mental illness, emotional things, people who liked Princess Diana or you think maybe could connect with this. I'd love to be able to spread this to as many people as possible and see if they could get some value from this too. Also, guys, I have a Facebook page, Katie's Insight. Go like the page, join the group. And I have a group called Katie's Corner. It'll be changed to Katie's Insight soon, and we're trying to help people when it comes to all their stimulus issues. And maybe we'll do more with it later, but you can go in there as well. But please let me know what you think. I'll tell you, I'm very nervous. I feel very shy. It's weird. I call myself loudly shy because I'm decent at talking. Like talking is my strong suit and I'm very comfortable at talking. But a lot of times if I get super shy, I'll actually over talk. I know it doesn't make any sense. I get socially overwhelmed. So I'm really overwhelmed doing this video and I'm very, very nervous because I don't know how well it's going to do or if people are going to like it or if they think I'm abandoning them from not talking about stimulus. But I'd really like to see what people think about this video, and I'd like to see how you guys feel about it, and then maybe I'll try to figure out what to do with it from here. So if you could let me know, I would so appreciate it. And I just want to tell you guys, as I always end and say, I'm so grateful for every single one of you. I'm so grateful for every view. I'm so grateful for all the feedback. I'm so grateful for all the love and support. And I just can't thank you guys enough for giving me the platform to be able to say these types of things, be able make just enough money to get by and be able to continue to do this. You guys are such a blessing to me, and I will work every day to try to be as much of a blessing to you. So let me know what you guys think. And until next time, thank you guys so much for coming and listening to my insight on things. Hugs and kisses. Mwah! Okay, bye guys.